Okay, great. Okay, as you all know, we had started with the module 5. That's the last module in your syllabus for supply chain management. Okay, current trends, supply chain integration, and it's a very big topic actually. So we'll see what it is. So I just started with that. Okay, so I did not move ahead much. So the concept that we covered in the previous class, it was very important. So I want to start from there itself. Okay, those who are present, well and good. Those who are absent, make sure you are knowing this particular concept very well, because the next half of the module we will be using this particular concept based on what is this and what we are doing. Okay, so if you see the syllabus for module 5, current trend, supply chain integration, building partnership and trust in supply chain, value of information. So this big is the name of the chapter. Okay, then we'll start with the bullwhip effect, effective forecasting, coordinating the supply chain restructuring, supply chain mapping, supply chain process restructuring, postpone the point of differentiation, IT in supply chain, in that agile supply chains, in that reverse supply chain. Okay, then future of IT in supply chain, e-business in supply chain. So this is what would be your syllabus. So we'll start with the coordination a bit, then we'll move to the bullwhip effect, then effective forecasting, then in detail we'll start with the coordinating the supply chain. So what are the problems involved? Okay, like what do you mean by coordination? If coordination is not there, what are the problems that will happen? Okay, then something like this we'll be discussing over there. In supply chain restructuring, you know what is a restructuring? We are putting it together. If something is ready, if you want to some make some particular changes, we are changing it here and there, so that is restructuring. Okay, supply chain mapping. So initial stages we'll just check like where all we need to have what all, like in the sense supply chain starts with the supplier. Okay, so the whole supply chain, if you see, starts with the supplier and ends with the customer. So where all I am basically needing different warehouses. Okay, what is the path that we are taking? Okay, how many stops we need to have? So these things are basically uh, forecasted, we can say forecasted or foreseen. Okay, and we are mapping it. So then supply chain restructuring, again we are restructuring the supply chain. Okay, so here it is there again in this supply chain restructuring we are having supply chain mapping. Under that we are having supply chain restructuring. After mapping we'll get to know like which are the stops which you need to take. Okay, so if you want to reduce some of the stops, what needs to be done? So this is what is restructuring. Then postpone the point of differentiation, in the sense if there is anything that is different than what is going on. So we need to push it forward. So we'll see what it is in the basically when we are reaching over there. Then IT, information technology, supply chain, how it will help us. What is agile supply chains? You might have heard this particular term. Okay, in your engineering one of the subjects. Okay, so I'm not sure which all subjects you have at present, but agile, like in manufacturing, if you are having of any kind, so you might have heard agile, the word agile. So here that particular concept is used in supply chains. Then reverse supply chain. So we'll see what it is. I don't want to go ahead of time here. Then future of IT. So what is it in future that is coming? What we can foresee in terms of information technology in the supply chain. So in the present situation, if you see, most of the things are happening on electronic basis. Those who can work like the thing that we are doing, that is we are having our classes through a particular system and not in a conventional way of a classroom and a board or a chalk kind of thing. So here it is everything a particular mobile system or a laptop or something that kind. So e-business in supply chain. So how this particular electronic thing helps us in the supply chain business. Okay, so that we are learning here. Now coming to the first part, I told you like we are starting with the supply chain coordination effect. Then we are moving to the bullwhip effect. So what I was telling you is the important part would be the bullwhip effect. If you understand it, it is very easy, interesting. Okay, then how? it has an effect on all the different components of the supply chain. We are looking at that. So for that, you need to understand what is bullwhip effect. So before going there, lack of supply chain coordination. Supply chain coordination improves if all stages of the supply chain takes action that together increase total supply chain profits. So if you see a particular chain, it is as good as its weakest link. So you might have heard this. Okay, whatever it is, if it is in kind of a particular chain or a particular procedure, so it is as strong as its weakest link. So this is generally told. Why this is told? Because if the weakest link breaks, so it already makes the chain into two parts. So that's why, so all the parts in the supply chain should be as strong as possible. Okay, so you should there should not be any place for weak links. So you need to make sure of that. Okay, then supply chain coordination requires each stage of supply chain to take into account the impact of actions. Okay, so here what we are saying is a supply chain may not be owned by one person. There might be involvement of too many people, okay, or too many parties, we can say. Like for example, just imagine transportation. So in transportation, it could be, we have seen what different kinds of transportation we can have. Okay, so in terms of supply to the customer, it could be directly from the manufacturer to the retailer. Okay, or it is sorry, not retailer, the consumer. So the retailer gives the order to the manufacturer. The manufacturer directly sends the product to the consumer. Okay, or it goes the order goes through the retailer. Then again the order is sent to the retailer, and from retailer it is sent to the customer. Okay, or different combinations of these. Okay, or if the customer is asked to come and pick it at from a particular pickup point or something. So I have seen this. So there are different parties. Okay, and each party, if they are not working properly for the objective to reach the objective of the main company, then it will be hampering the whole supply chain. Why? Because there are different parties and each party wants to have the maximum profit. In that particular case, what they do, if they take some particular decision which may basically hamper the whole supply chain. Like for example, I'll give you like in a particular warehouse, they have to send the uh, particular load, in a sense, a set of products to the next warehouse. So they will say, the person in the warehouse, he says, anyway, it is going over there. So tomorrow there is one more consignment that is coming. I can combine both and I can send. Okay, but if the person who is the sender, he might have agreed to make sure that the product reaches at this particular time, but the person in between, what he says, I have to send it twice, so there will be double the amount that I need to pay. So what I'll do, I'll club it, I'll wait for one day. Okay, this particular consignment will be waiting for one day, the next consignment will come, I'll join both together, then it will be sent. So what is happening here, we are having a delay of one day. Okay, so this particular delay may not be taken into account. Okay, so just for looking at that particular person's profits, so he's increasing, right? Whatever you are saving is profit, so he's basically gaining more profits because he's combining. He is not taking the approval also, he is not informing the supply chain ahead. So if they call him like what has happened, then he might say that okay, there is a delay in the consignment, we are waiting for one of the consignments. He might not tell that he's like the consignment that had to be moved is already ready, but he is waiting for some other consignment. Okay, so these things may have an adverse effect or negative effect on the whole supply chain. For example, you are the end user and you have ordered something. Okay, there is a function at your house and a particular gift you have ordered. So instead of reaching it on the day, so if it reaches on the next day, so what will happen? So you are not getting that particular gift, whatever product you have bought as gift, you will not be getting it at the right time. So there will be a lot of issues between you and the sender, just for the benefit of the person who is in between. That is the person who is responsible for transportation from one warehouse to the other warehouse. So this is how it will impact the overall supply chain. So now a delay was there, and the delay will be continued. Okay, if there is no slack time in between, it will be continued. So instead of reaching it on Monday, for example, it will reach you on Tuesday. So if you are in very much in need of it, so you are screwed basically. You are not getting that particular product, whatever you do. Okay, like example I gave you, there is some function you need to give that particular thing. If it is not there at the right time, if they are very near and dear to you and they're staying with you, not an issue. So you say, okay, I got it late, but it's a function, family function or something where all the people are gathering, and if you wanted to give any particular uh, gift, so that is a very embarrassing situation. So there will be a misunderstanding between the seller and the buyer, or the manufacturer and the buyer basically. A lack of coordination occurs either because different stages of the supply chain have objectives that conflict, or because information moving between stages is delayed and distorted. I just told you that they are having their own objectives. Their objective might be gaining more profits, okay, and not sending the product on time, or it could be like sending the product before time. So many a times you might have seen, okay, they, in Flipkart or in Amazon or Snapdeal or whatever, they'll be giving you a certain time. If you buy this, it will reach you on or before this. So most of the times they'll try to reach it before time, and very rarely it goes above the time, or they may cancel. So many a times it has happened that they have cancelled also. Okay, so this is what is because of the supply chain issues. So even if you see it has stuck in this particular place because there is some strike or something, okay, or it is moving, sir, it is in transit, it has to go to so many places. Like for example, you are in Belgaum and you have ordered it. So if it has to come from Delhi, it will come from Delhi to Mumbai, from Mumbai to Bangalore, from Bangalore to Belgaum, then from Belgaum to your place. Or it may so happen that from Mumbai it may directly go to Chennai, from Chennai it will go to Bangalore, from Bangalore it may come to you. So it is traveling a lot of more distance than what it had to travel, because the shipment was like that. So it was moving in that particular way. Okay, where it is having taking basically more time to reach you than usual. If it directly, if it was sent, it would have reached you in mm, 2 days. Now it is taking 5 to 6 days, because there is a huge diversion that it has to take. So this is what we are basically trying to see in restructuring. Okay, so leave that. We'll see over there. Then different stages of supply chain may have conflicting objectives. If each stage has a different owner, as a result, as I told you, there might be different people who may own that particular part of the supply chain. Okay, so like example of eCart. Okay, eCart. This is a separate organization which is helping the Flipkart to deliver their products. If eCart says I want to maximize my profits, and it starts accumulating the packets what it is getting, okay, so then what will happen? There is a lot of delay that happens. Okay, then owner as a result each stage tries to maximize its own profits, resulting in actions that often diminish the total supply chain profits. In the sense, so once you have done this, twice you have done this, third time the person who is buying the product, or who is ordering the product, may not order here because of the issues. So many times you might have seen, like in Flipkart and other places, there will be reviews. At that time, you might have seen that, okay, very good packing. So not so good packing. Everything was torn till it came to me. Okay, this product was damaged. That piece was damaged because the packing was not so good. So it might be in any stage of the transportation this might have happened. It's not that the manufacturer only does it and sends. So in the initial stages it will be packed properly, but till it reaches you, it has to go through so many places, so many warehouses. Okay, so many vehicles it has to change. Okay, so in that process, it is not been taken care well. So that is what you can see the pictures they might send you there at the bottom, stating that, okay, this is the state which I got the product. Okay, this thing was broken, that thing was broken, uh, it is not working well. So these are the things what happen because of some of the things which are not going well in the supply chain. Now coming to bullwhip, if you see, this is a bullwhip. Just see here how it is. At the starting point, a bigger loop is there. Then at the end, it is a smaller loop. If it was a bit bigger one, there would be multiple loops where in the initial stage, that is the place where a particular person will be holding it, just next to it will be the most biggest loop. Then it goes on becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. At the end, it would be the smallest loop. So this is a bullwhip, and this particular effect is called as bullwhip because of this particular characteristics of a particular bullwhip. Okay, so if you see here, okay, so now it is exactly opposite. Okay, so here the person is holding, you can think. Okay, here the person is holding. So if you see here, it starts with the customer, then it reaches the supplier. So this is the smallest thing. So from consumer to the manufacturer. So here there is a demand, there is a forecast here at the manufacturer part. So demand, a person who goes and asks for that particular product, he is demanding the product. So there is a demand over there. Then a person who is manufacturing it, he has to foresee, he has to forecast that how much of demand is there in the market. Okay, this is what is the relationship between the consumer and the manufacturer. At the consumer's part, there is a demand, and at the manufacturer's part, there is a forecast. So if you see here, so there is a variation. You might know this. There will be variation. Like in this particular month, my product, like for example, I was able to sell around 100 products. In the next month, I sold around 120 products, and the next month I sold only 80 products. So there will be a what do you call, variation in the demand. Okay, so most of you, or most of us, basically I can say most of us, so at the time of pandemic in the earlier stages, now we know like what is the case, what will happen, which all stores are open, how much to buy and all. So if you see, there was something called as panic buying. Okay, people went, they bought so many things for around 6 months, 3 months, and all those who could afford. Okay, the people who were buying for a daily thing, they were buying for weekly things. Okay, the amount that was required for a week. So the people who could buy for a week, they were buying for a month. The people who were able to buy for a month, or who used to buy for a month, they were buying for 2 months or 3 months. Okay, similarly, it was going on increasing. Why? Because there was some uncertainty. They were not knowing when will this particular lockdown open. Okay, so suddenly whatever things were there, we made a big list. We went to shops. There were huge number of people who were standing there because they wanted so many things, because everything was uncertain. The same thing happens over here. Okay, consumer, what happens? There is a small change here. Okay, if like for example, take a bar of soap. Okay, just as an example, I don't want to go with other things. So take example as a soap here. So consumer who was buying a particular soap, one number of soap, he was buying for a month or so. Just take a month. Okay, two soaps per month. Okay, if the consumer was buying two soaps per month, he can buy it two at a time, or one after 15 days or 10 days. So whenever he feels it is about to get over, so he'll go and buy, or he could buy at once two soaps. So now what he is doing, because of uncertainty, he is buying four, or even he might buy 10. Okay, just example, take it as 10. If he is buying 10 now, 10 products or 10 soaps now, what will the retailer that he is selling to him, he has to give now, instead of 2, he has to give 10, right? So he, what he will say, because like such 10 customer comes to him. Okay, just imagine there are 10 customers whom he is selling the soap. So this one particular customer who used to buy 2 is buying 10. The customer is buying 1, he is buying 3. The person who will be buying 4 or 5, he will be buying 10 or 15. Okay, so what happens now? There is a lot of demand for the product at the retailer's end. So here consumer is increasing, but if you see, there are the consumer will be only one, but he, this particular retailer, is serving 10 of such customers. So the demand further increases at the retailer's side. So just imagine like 10 here, then 3. The same example I'll go on adding. 10 plus 3 is 13. 13 plus 15 is 28. So 28. Instead of selling only 5 or 6, he has to sell now. Like the demand is 28 at the retailer side. So if you, when you come to the wholesaler side, so he is not only supplying to one retailer, so there are multiple such retailers. Okay, take example, 10 retailers are there. Okay, instead of 28 into 10, okay, 280, total 280. Now instead of 280 as for 10 wholesalers, sorry, 10 retailers, this wholesaler will be now having 280 into 10, that is 2800. So see here, it is going on multiplying. This particular loop is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. So wholesaler, if you see here, 2800 instead of 280, now he is getting 2800 as the demand. So when he is getting 2800, so he will say, okay, not this guy. This guy is getting 2800, but the manufacturers, if you see, they will not be only giving to one wholesaler. There would be many places if he is selling, and there are many wholesalers. Okay, take 10 wholesalers he is selling, and each person is again in turn giving it to 10 retailers. 10 retailers are selling to 10 consumers. Okay, now here it was 2800. If we just make it into 10, so what will happen? 2800 will become 28,000. Okay, here the manufacturer, he was not ready to send 28,000. It was just around 8,000 or 10,000 or 3,000 for that matter. If you see, then 3,000 is more. So now suddenly is getting a order of 28,000. Okay, now manufacturer is getting 28,000. What manufacturer will think is, so if I just produce 28,000, and if there is one more order, if I get more, so I will not be able to fulfill that particular order. So instead of 28,000, what he does, he'll order for 35,000, like the raw materials to his supplier. He'll say, okay, whatever uh, 35,000 products of my soap is required, you send all that particular thing. So it has become much more bigger now at the supplier end. Okay, so this is how a bullwhip works basically. Bullwhip effect. We call this as a bullwhip effect. So what happens now? This was just the buying and selling cycles. Okay, so this particular person is buying from a retailer. Okay, is buying in bulk. So what is happening here is he's increasing the time period which he has to buy again. Okay, this was for a month. Just take an example. This whole thing is for a month. So now for this particular person, the consumer, instead of buying 1 month's whatever was required, he is buying for 3 months now. So what will happen for the next 3 months? This particular consumer will not buy this particular soap because he is having that much of uh, products with him, that much of soap with him at a particular moment. So when he wants to rebuy it, it will be somewhere around after 2.5 months, or just at the time of finishing his last bar. Okay. So now what happens? There is no customer. This particular customer will not come to him for next 2.5 to 3 months. Okay, the similar thing will happen with the retailer. Okay, so this retailer will not buy, okay, with from the wholesaler for a certain period of time. Okay, again it may not be 3 months, it might be 1.5 month. The wholesaler will not put an order to the manufacturer now. It could be a delay of 15 days or 20 days, because he will somehow try to push whatever he is having. So similarly, the manufacturer again has a like with the supplier, he says, okay, I don't want so much of raw material now because the order is very less. So at a particular moment of suddenly the demand will increase, and just after that the demand will decrease suddenly. So okay, here it was zero. Here he says, I don't want, I'm pushing it further. So he also further pushes it. So now this particular manufacturer is in dilemma whether I need to produce 28,000 or 35,000, or my usual 5 to 6,000. Okay, so just like that you cannot increase. Okay, so that too many folds. So it was producing 5,000 soaps per month, so he directly cannot produce around 25 to 35,000 soaps per month. So manpower, the raw materials, the machines, okay, the lead time, like for example some chemical reaction needs to take place where he has to keep it, okay, in a particular container for around 3 days or 4 days or 15 days, whatever, just as an example I'm giving you. So to get that, so what he needs to do, he needs to buy more of the machines, or he has to make sure that these particular people are waiting. Only these things can be done by the manufacturer. So similarly, when suddenly the supplier, if he is getting a lot of order, he may not be having that much of stock with him. Suddenly, he will put order to his suppliers. Okay, so if there are eight things that this particular supplier is supplying, so for him to get that eight products, okay, or eight things that this particular supply is getting, he might have has to get that particular eight things from eight different people. So their supply, like their demand will also increase. Okay, or the order for them also will increase. So suddenly there will be a lot of disruptions that will be happening. Okay, suddenly there is a huge demand and there is a huge order to the manufacturer, and just next month or next to next month there is no orders, only almost nil, I can say, or only 2000 order comes instead of 5000. So this is what is the effect of bullwhip. There is, it starts with small here, but it ends up having very huge quantity at the end. So here if you see it was only 10. Okay, instead of buying 2, he is buying only 10 here. So as it is going on increasing, it has become up to 28,000 here. 10, where is 10 and where is 28,000? So much of disruption it can have in the whole of supply chain. Okay, so this is a bullwhip effect. So understand this properly, what is happening at the initial stage. Small variation is leading to the very big variation at the like what you call at the initial stages of the supply chain, or up the supply chain, you can say. So at the downward, I am having a small variation which is further amplified in each and every section of the supply chain, and it is reaching at a very high level at the end of the supply chain, or at the beginning of the supply chain if you go backwards. Okay, or at the top of the supply chain, you can say. So this is what is the bullwhip effect. So if you see the bullwhip effect, in which fluctuations in orders increase as they move up the supply chain. We just saw the fluctuations were increasing. So here it was 10 in the consumer's place, so it became 100 in the retailer's place, then it became 1000 in the distributor's place, then from 1000 it became 10,000 in the manufacturers. So from manufacturers it became, it will not become 1 lakh, but it might become some 20,000 or 25,000 at the time of supplier. Okay, so this is how this particular thing happens. Okay, so here if you see fluctuations increase as they move up the supply chain from retailers to wholesalers to manufacturers to suppliers. So it starts from the consumers. Okay, so consumers is the end user, so you may exclude him. Okay, then from retailers to suppliers, if you see, has a very big change. Okay, then the bullwhip effect distorts demand information within the supply chain, with each stage having a different estimate of what demand looks like. Okay, so just I gave you an example stating that what was the order, okay, to that particular stage of the supply chain. But if you think, if you are one of the person in the supply chain, for example you are the distributor, if you are getting an order of 10,000, will you just order 10,000? You will say that okay, I need to have some safety stock with me. So instead of 10,000, what you do, you will order for 10,500 or 11,000. Okay, so he is increasing his safety stock. Okay, so go up the ladder now. Instead of distributor, if you are the manufacturer, you will say, so if the order is 12,000, why should I only order 12,000? Okay, or sorry, produce 12,000. So there should be some safety stock with me also, no? If something happens and I am not able to produce something, okay, a particular machine breakdown or something, if we keep some 20% also, okay, as his safety stock, so now it has gone to 20,000. Now 20% of 20,000, he will add that much and he will produce. Okay, so that is where you are going on increasing in each particular link of the supply chain. We are slowly increasing than what was required. Okay, so there will be huge disruption. So instead of 28,000 in the previous example, instead of reaching 28,000, I might reach around 35,000 at the supply, the manufacturer's end. So if he takes further, excuse me, if he takes further additions, so instead of 35,000, he might produce some 40,000. Okay, so just see the difference. Instead of 5,000 what he was producing, now he is producing around 40,000. How many times more? Yeah, 5 8 are 40. So 8 times he is producing more. Not once, twice, or thrice, 8 times. So just imagine how much money he has to put. So if he is prepared for it, well and good. Otherwise, there's a lot of issue that happens. Okay, because the supplier he has to give the payment to his suppliers again. So the manufacturer has to pay his suppliers. Okay, the distributor has to pay the manufacturer because he is giving him. So similarly, it goes on down. But if you see, the customer has to pay then and there. But the retailer may not be paying as and when he is getting the product. There will be some credit cycle. We call this as credit cycle. So it could be for a week, for a month, for 40 days, for 45 days, 60 days, 90 days, and so on. Okay, so this is a credit cycle where again it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, so, if you see here, the Bulwick effect distorts demand information within the supply chain. Okay, with each stage having a different estimate of what demand looks like. The result is a loss of supply chain coordination. Why? Because suddenly there will be a huge hike in the demand and suddenly it falls down. So even the manufacturer will not be knowing what is happening basically. Why this so much of variation in the supply and demand that is happening? Okay, like two examples, if you see Procter and Gamble, PNG, you might have heard. So Pampers diapers is one of the products of PNG. Okay, so what was happening with this particular product is suddenly there was like the bullwhip effect was there. Okay, suddenly in one of the months the demand used to go very high, and for next consecutive 1 or 2 months there would be very less orders. Okay, so these people wanted to see why so much of demand is happening. So if you see what is like suddenly it is not like 1 month the babies come together and in the next month they disappear. This will not happen, right? So if there are a particular number of babies, okay, for a particular month, there might be some increase, no doubt. Okay, but the number of orders should increase and not decrease. That's why I said suddenly babies will not appear using the diaper, and on the next month they will not disappear, just like that. So these people wanted to know, the PNG people, why this particular product of Pampers, okay, why it is having a lot of fluctuation. So when they went back, okay, to the consumer side and they found out there was no much difference, okay. So there was no much difference, like you might be knowing. So if you are having small kids at your home and if you are aware of the buying cycle of your home, like some people they buy on a daily basis. If the store is next to them, they don't want to pay on a huge packet. Okay, so what they do is on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, like a medium packet or something, they'll buy. So if you go to malls and all, you can buy a bigger packet where it could be sufficient for a month. So I don't know what kind of cycle we are in. Okay, so this is where suddenly lockdown kind of thing happens, and you know it is very much required for small babies. It is otherwise it is very difficult. So what do they do? Instead of buying one, they'll buy four or five. Okay, of the big packets. So what happens now? Suddenly the supply increases. Sorry, the demand increases. The supply will be the same, the demand increases. So it travels the supply chain up, okay, till the supplier. Then from there it has to the manufacturing has to happen. So suddenly there was a big demand. So if they are having surplus with them, okay, the minimum quantity as I told you, if they are keeping in stock, so as much as possible they will give. Okay, then they'll tell, wait, okay, the same kind of crisis happened in US in this pandemic time. I don't know how many of you know. As small as the toilet paper were not available. People were buying in bulk. Okay, they were buying like if they need some 5 or 6 rolls per month, they were buying around 60, 80. Okay, the card was full of. There were pictures I have seen. Okay, there were cards full. That is the shopping carts full of toilet papers only. Okay, nothing else. Toilet papers. It was that kind of thing that was happening, and there were so many memes that had come. Okay, like there is some smuggling kind of thing going on, and that particular person, he is paying in toilet paper because the demand was so much. Okay, so this happens suddenly. So the toilet paper manufacturing companies may not have thought, okay, this might happen. Okay, all the other products were there, but at the toilet paper rack, it was empty, completely empty. Why? Because people were buying. They were in panic mode. They were panic buying. They were doing the panic buying. They were just buying it. Somebody said that okay, there will be a lot of shortage of this, so suddenly you go and buy. Okay, and it is nothing like because of this only it happens. There are many reasons, like we call them as artificial uh, increase of demand. Okay, so what happens here is some particular stage of a particular supply chain, he will not allow the products to move ahead, so he is creating that particular demand artificially. Okay, so this is artificial demand is being created. He is stocking the products, and suddenly when the price increases he will dump. Okay, because if you say like I'm in so much of demand, so whoever want to supply me, I'll say okay, supply at whatever price people are ready to pay because the demand is so much, right? So suddenly he will dump. Everywhere you are having toilet papers now, and the he that particular person has already got the amount, but people will not buy in whatever the rate what they were buying earlier, because everyone will be having now, and even on the shelf you are getting those particular toilet paper now, they will not buy at whatever rate they were buying earlier. Okay, similar things in this particular PNG happened, but they came to know that there was a bullwhip effect that was going on. So here where we need to do the restructuring. Okay, so again we'll go there. Then HP, Abbott Packard, you already know HP. In the printer division, again they were having this particular problem. Like suddenly the demand of the printer was going up, suddenly it fell down. Okay, not only printer but the accessories of the printer, like the ink, the toner, the paper, okay, and other stuff. So we'll not go into the technical part of it, but even these people were facing the same issues. But if you go and check at the customers place, or the place where people are buying, there were very much less, like 2 or 3% or even 5% of variation was there. But when it reaches the manufacturer, it was around 200% or 500% or 10,000% of variation was there. Okay, so this is where like each stage of the supply chain, he was increasing that particular part by like that number by a little. Okay, like I just gave you 10 retailers or 10 distributors. It may not be 10, it might be 100. So suddenly the number increases. Okay, if I buy it today, instead of 2, I'm buying 10. I'll not, as a retailer, the shop which I go and buy will not be only serving to 10 people. It might be hundreds of people. Okay, hundred of people basically will be going and buying at that particular place. Right. So suddenly now the increase in demand, now it is being taken to the next level to the distributor. Now the distributor is not only selling to that one store, right? He is selling to many stores, not only one or two or 10. It might be in hundreds again. So it is increasing hundred folds in each and every stage of the supply chain, we can say. So till it reaches the supplier, it might have increased many folds. Okay, like around 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 times what was the actual demand. Okay, so these two are the examples you remember, because we are taking this PNG example later and we are looking at different things. So that's why I gave an example. There were no changes in the birth rate. So you might have already, as a company who is producing a particular diaper, you might have already taken into consideration that okay, so every year there could be 5% or 2% rise in the number of babies. Okay, so similarly, there could be a decrease of 1 or 2% every year, because as and when babies get older or bigger, they will not be using pampers or the diapers. So there is a demand where more babies are born, and there is what do you call decrease in demand at the place where babies are growing up where they are not using the diapers. So similarly, there will be a calculation, increase and decrease. So both has to be taken into consideration. Like for example, 5% is increase and 2% is decrease. So every year I need to increase by 3%, or for that particular tick for that particular year only. So I want to increase by 3%. Instead of 3%, I had to increase by 3000%. So if you see this particular Bulwark effect, it happens. Then studies of the apparel and grocery industry have shown a similar phenomenon. So it is not only the Pampers, or it's not only the printer, or it's not only one sector. So it can happen in anywhere. Okay, in any of the product, with any of the product or any of the services, it can happen anywhere. Okay, so here if you see here studies of the apparel and grocery industry, even grocery. So as I gave an example of this particular pandemic, instead of buying 5 kgs of rice for that particular month, the person is buying a whole bag of 25 kgs. So instead of 5, he has made it 25. He is buying 5 times more. So he may not be buying again rice for next 4 months, 4 to 5 months. It's not that the last piece is there in his home and he's going to buy. No. So last 3 kgs or 2 kgs if is remaining, he'll go and buy. So it could be 4 months or 4.5 months. So instead of buying 5 kgs, he's buying 25 kgs and will not be back for next 4 to 4.5 months. So again, there is a bullwhip effect that acts. So suddenly there is a huge demand and there is no demand in the next coming months. Okay, then a similar phenomenon over a longer time frame has been observed in several industries, not only product. So here it is in multiple industries. So that are quite prone to boom and bust cycles. So what are these called as boom and bust cycles? Suddenly there is increase in the demand, so that is called as boom, and suddenly there is a huge dip in the demand. So this is called as bust. So I could explain here. Okay, in this case, it is a boom and there is a bust. Boom, bust. It goes on increasing. There is a boom, increase. There is a bust. It falls down. There is a boom. There will be a bust cycle. Boom cycle, bust cycle. Boom, bust. Boom and bust. So this is what is happening. Increasing and decreasing of demand, which are also termed as boom and bust cycles. Okay. So next, effective forecasting. We are coming to the effective forecasting part. So if you had not foreseen that this will happen, so you will not be prepared. Suddenly, if you say that okay, the demand has increased many folds, now I have to hire so many people. Now I have to buy so many machines. Now I have to increase my warehouse capacity. Why? Because I need to produce so much. I need to store somewhere, right? It's not that from the point of manufacturing, it will not go to the distributor directly, right? So I need to store it somewhere. So I need to keep that safety stock also somewhere, right? And if I am ordering too much of raw materials, it's not that I am putting it in that machine directly, it comes from the supplier. No, you have to keep some stock, again, a particular stock where you should not stop the particular process. Okay, so something called as lead time. We have discussed about lead time. So for example, lead time is 10 days. So you should minimum have capacity, or you should minimum store the supplies worth for like for next 15 days, right? So it should not like 10 days is required for replenishment. You are having only 10 days. For example, something happens and he is not sending the product for next 2 days, or there is a delay of 2 days. You cannot sit idle. So what they do is, if the lead time is 10 days to procure something, for example, a raw material you want to have, it takes 10 days to reach you. So there will be a stock, okay, which is sufficient for 15 days or 20 days with the manufacturer. He has to keep. If something happens, if the demand is increasing, he has to need more supply. If he orders now, after 10 days, it's going to come to him. So instead, if he is having double the amount for the lead time, okay, lead time 10 days, I will keep safety stock for 20 days now. Okay, there are different approaches again in terms of inventory management, like LIFO, FIFO, and all. LIFO in the sense last in, first out. So whatever has come last, that will exit out first. Then FIFO, first in, first out. Whatever has come in first has to leave my godown first, or leave my warehouse first. That means whatever I am getting at the earlier stage will be used at the earlier stage. Okay. So these are some of the things. So it depends on the kind of product what you are storing. This particular LIFO and FIFO works. Okay. Then so the following six basic steps are there, or approaches you can say, help an organization perform effective forecasting. So what are the six particular steps? Understand the objective of forecasting, integrate demand planning and forecasting throughout the supply chain, understand and identify customer segments, customer segments, then identify the major factors that influence the demand forecast, determine the appropriate forecasting technique, establish performance and error measures for the forecast. So these are the six things. So we'll see these six things in detail. So what is the first one? Understand the objective of forecasting. So why are we forecasting? Why do we need that particular number for the next year or for the next week or for the next cycle or for the next quarter? Why are we basically trying to find out that number? So that particular objective should be clear in your mind. Why am I doing it? Okay, whether do I have to hire more people, whether I have to ask for my supplier to supply more or less, whether I need to procure more machineries. Okay, so all these things will be there as an uh, foreseeing part. So actually for what you are doing, so that will be the main objective. So you should understand why forecasting is done. So every forecast supports decisions that are based on the forecast. So you are basically want to take a decision based on that particular forecast. And each forecast basically is done to take some decisions. So what kind of decisions? Okay, so we'll see here. So as an important first step is to identify these decisions clearly. So what kind of these particular decisions are? So examples, if you see how much of particular product to make. Okay, the production department is asking me what is the requirement for next month. So I need to have a forecast telling them that you produce so much. If you don't tell anything, they just sit. There is no demand. There is nobody is asking me to produce any number of things. So why should I produce anything? So the production department will halt. That should not happen. So you should foresee what will be my demand, and you should inform it to the production department. So they will make the planning accordingly. Like if you want 500 products, how much to produce in the first week, how much to produce in the second week, how much to produce in the third week and the fourth week. So depending upon the raw materials available and the machineries that are available and the number of variants of the product that you want, whether it is only one product that you are looking for or there are multiple variants in that particular product. So based on this, there should be some changes to be done in the machines. Okay, the way it performs. Okay, so I don't want to go into detail here, but in many companies, not many, in almost all the companies where they are producing multiple variants, there will be some variations that need to be done in particular machines. Okay, so that particular variation needs some time. It may take 2 hours to assemble and disassemble a particular part of a particular machine that should be needed for a particular part, and for some other part it may not be needed. So it might be removed from over that particular part, and a different part could be attached over there, right? So to do this some time is required. So the production people will be having their own plan of reaching that particular number for that particular month. Okay, so this particular department is called as ppc production planning and control. So there is a whole department which is called as ppc department. So these people, they plan the production and they control the production. So that is what their name comes, production planning and control, ppc. Okay, so they are the people who needs to plan everything. Like for example, machine is there and a machining thing is going on. Okay, you need some tools to do it. Okay, some cutters to do it. So it is not that it is kind of a blade or a knife in your house. Just imagine there is a blade or a knife in your house. So how long are you using that particular knife? So after a certain period of time, it loses its sharpness. So you need to go and sharpen it again. Till then, what you do, you will be buying a new one, or you directly go and sharpen it. So it depends on you. So if you see an industry, it is not that only one day they are cutting. So it is the 24 hours a day that particular operation is done. So if you are working for three shifts, okay, if it is only one shift, it is around 8 to 9 hours. Two shifts, around 18 hours. So if it is three shifts, 24 hours. So whole 24 hours, it may not be uh, that sharp, okay, to cut the material. If it is not sharp, there will be some irregularities. So there is something called as tool life. So it could be used for a certain period only or for certain products only. If it is working for 10 products, to manufacture 10 products, after 10 it has to be replaced with a new one. So it depends upon the kind of the blade you are using. Okay, so whether it can be resharpened or it has to be thrown out. So that is or the planning done by this particular PPC people. Okay, so this is for the particular product to make. Then how much to inventory, in the sense how much I need to manufacture and how much I need to store as a particular safety stock. Okay, then how much to order. So to produce this, I need to order my raw materials, right? So how much raw materials need to be ordered? Okay, for each and every product, if there are multiple products, multiple raw materials could be needed. The variation, what happens, it might be due to the raw material that you are using. Okay, the amount of raw material using might differ. Like if there's different sizes are there. Okay, just take example of your chips. So you are getting a chips for 5 rupees. You are getting a chips of 10 rupees. You are getting chips of 20 rupees. You are getting chips of 50 rupees. So the quantity differs, right? If the quantity is differing, if you see how many packets of 5 rupees can be made with the amount that you are having in a packet of 50 rupees. So there is a certain number of each product or each variant of the product you are doing. So how many packets of 5 rupees I need to make, how many packets of 10 rupees I need to make, how many packets of 20 rupees I need to make, and how many packets of 50 rupees I need to make. This decision has to be taken care. Okay, so this could be forecasted. So based on that, you are getting, if it is potato chips, so you should get so much of potatoes, so much of kgs of potatoes. So as a production person or as a manufacturer, you will be knowing if I buy or if I take 1 kg of potato, how many chips or how many wafers I am producing. So based on this, so if it is a 5 rupees packet, so there will be an average of how many wafers will be going in that particular packet. So each wafer will be having a particular weight. So this will be standardized actually. Okay, like if it is for 15 grams, so how many wafers will be there in 15 grams of uh, packet? Next would be 30 grams of packet. So it would be doubled. So instead of 30, next would be around 50. So 50 grams. So it is completely different now. So we need to manage it like that. So that much of raw material is to be required. That much of potatoes should be there. That much of oil should be there. That much of masala that is put on it should be there. Okay. So in chips only, if you see, this is only one kind of chips I'm telling you. Some, for example, salted chips. Next, there is peri peri chips is there. Then there is pudina chips is there. Then there is tomato chips is there. So each product, how much I need to produce. So there is a variation, right? So there are different raw materials that are required. So the base thing is the same. That is the wafer. That is the aloo that you buy, or that is the potatoes that you buy. But the seasoning that you put on top, the masala that you put, that is changing, right? So if you are not having that masala, you will not be able to produce that kind of chips. So you need to take care of all those things. So that is what we are telling, how much to order. Next comes, all parties should come up with a common forecast for the promotion and a shared plan of action based on the forecast. So whatever forecast I am doing here, should I should involve all the different what do you call the chains of the supply chain. Okay, so if somebody says, okay, so now there is some particular thing is coming up, like for example IPL. Okay, if IPL is coming, so now if you have seen so many chips advertisements, okay, Lay's, okay, they are the major advertisers. If you see Ranveer Kapoor or so many people, they might hire Okay, now if you see so many even the mm, sports people are also coming over there. Now if you see the latest advertisement, so it is the online meeting that is going on. The person comes and says अभी 5 घंटे के लिए मेरा बॉस पकाएगा and I need so much of lace. Okay, so you might have seen this particular advertisement. Okay, so this is what they are saying, that they are trying to put in their particular product there. So whatever changes in the environment is happening wherever they could. Okay, they are focusing like that. Okay, so earlier it was the games. When the games are there, when football is there, when cricket is there, okay, whatever favorite game you want to see at that particular time, this is the best companion to watch the game with. Okay, similarly popcorn and all. So popcorn is the most what you call the popular one, most popular one. But they are trying to even include chips at the in the place of the popcorn also, or they want to include both popcorn as well as the chips there. So now because games are not going on, okay, so what is going on now? Online meetings are going on. So there are many people who are just sitting and listening to the things what are going on there until that time comes. So till then what they do, they have to do, they have to do some time pass, right? So they are telling eat chips. So they are trying to introduce chips even in work, okay, at the time of work. So this is how it works. Okay, then failure to make such decisions jointly may result in either too much or too little product in various stages of supply chain. That means suddenly when you say, people might think, okay, yes, I want to buy chips now. I am having a meeting. So out of 100, if at least three, okay, who are not eating chips at the time of particular meeting, if they start eating, so there are just see 1,000. So if you see 1,000, there are 30 people. So now 30 packets have been increased. So if you are not informing this to the uh, retailers or the distributors, so there might be a variation in the demand again. So suddenly the demand increases. Okay, just take the example of chips only. So suddenly it increases. So a bullwhip effect, having a bullwhip effect could be seen over there if you are not including the suppliers or the retailers or the distributors while taking this particular decision of coming up with an advertisement where we're introducing it at the time of a discussion or a debate or a meeting. Okay, so if you have included them and if you have given them a heads up stating that there could be increase in your sales, so those people could purchase more and keep, right? So suddenly it will not happen. So they are being warned now. Okay, there might be increase. So if it is increase is there, there might be no much impact. But if there is sudden increase, there could be impact because there is a panic now. So suddenly the retailer will say, "Hey, I need it. There are so many people who are asking for it. So urgently he wants now." Okay, so the same thing will happen. Will move ahead in the supply chain, and it will lead to a very big disaster. This is understanding the objective. Why exactly I am forecasting? What is the reason? Whether I am looking for ordering, whether I am looking for the inventory, whether I am giving an order to the production department to produce more, or I am placing it in the minds of people. I want to change the perception of the people in the way what they are thinking about my product. Suddenly it was a companion for sports. Now it is a companion for your meeting. Okay, whole new different sector you are targeting now. Okay, so the people who may not be watching sports, okay, now even they are buying because they are having a particular meeting going on, right? The next, integrate demand planning and forecasting throughout the supply chain. Okay, so here the company should link its forecast to all the planning activities throughout the supply chain. So example, what all is there in the supply chain, like capacity planning, production planning, promotion planning, and purchase. So you can put this as different departments. Okay, capacity planning. So how much is required? So if one particular person is responsible for salted chips, so he will say my capacity requirement is so much. Okay, my requirement is so much of tons of potatoes, so much of tons of particular sugar, so much of tons of I am needing what you call pepper powder. Okay, something like this he will be giving. So there could be one more manager who is taking care of tomato chips. Again, for tomato, you need salt, you need a tomato, that particular masala. So he will give, and he will give his side of what you call uh, capacity required for potatoes. So everything together, this capacity planning should be done. Then production. When I'm going to start with the potato chips, okay, like plain potato chips. When I'll be starting with the salted potato chips. When I should start with the uh, tomato flavored potato chips. So this is what is production planning. So I told about PPC. These people do it. Then promotion planning. So now I am coming to advertising. So what kind of advertisements are basically shown where I am trying to put my product. So those things are done by promotion planning. Then purchasing. For all these things, okay, we need to purchase, whether it is raw material, whether it is the machines, if any additional machines are required. So it is being taken care by the purchase department or purchasing department. Then a variety of functions are affected by the outcomes of planning process. It is important that all of them are integrated into the forecasting process. Now, if you have done everything, okay, and you have not informed the HR that additional manpower is required. So what will happen? You are ready with everything, but there are no people to work. So suddenly there is a demand of people now. So now the HR will start panicking and they will start hiring. So they may not hire. The first job of them is to hire the right person for the right job. So when too much of demand is there, too much of pressure is there, even what they'll do is they'll just hire any Tom, Dick, and Harry who is applying for it. So they'll not see whether he is capable of doing it, whether he is the right fit for the right job. So what happens later on? The company also suffers, and even that person suffers. Why? Because he will not be like think he is not okay with the kind of job what is given to him. Okay, they might be telling him something at the time of the job posting, but when he joins, he might be put in some different department because the demand is there, okay, and this could be maintained by other people. So now suddenly he's transferred there. Now he feels that yeah, I was told something else, and now I am doing a whole new different thing. So if he's okay with it, well and good. Otherwise, he will resign. So suddenly again, it goes to the HR department, stating that hire again more. Okay, these are these disruptions which will be happening. So each and every department that is involved, okay, or is affected should be taken into confidence or should be given all the information what is going on. Okay, if you are planning for more production, what all is required, the purchasing department should be told that okay, more machines are required. So what kind of machines you are buying? So you need operators. So what kind of operators you are basically looking at? So a new department only is coming up or a new division is coming up or only the people who are available in that particular place only can handle this, the new machines that have come. Okay, so again planning has to be given to the HR department. So for the next 15 days, I'll be requiring 10 more people or 3 more people. Okay, for the next 15 days. So if it is coming for whole month, I'll be requiring 20 people. Okay, so initially you give me 5 people, then the next 15 could be given to me by the end of next month. That could be done. Okay, so I can manage the production and the planning, because as and when a particular person is hired, he will not be put to work. So there will be some training that should be given. You might have not worked on that particular machine, but have worked on a similar machine but not on the machine that you have. Okay, so some training should be given for 3 days, 5 days, or whatever, depending upon the complexity of the working of that particular machine. So those things need to be taken care. So variety of functions are affected by the outcomes of planning process. So planning has to be done properly and has to include all the relevant departments in the supply chain. Then to accomplish this integration, it is a good idea for a firm to have a cross-functional team with members from each affected function responsible for forecasting demand. If you see, cross-functional team means people of many departments coming together. This is cross-functional. So I don't know how many of you have work experience prior. So each and every department, if there is some problem that has come, okay, all the related departments will be called. Okay, will be called, since not all the people, the representatives from all the departments are called, and a particular problem is put forth okay, to them. Then each person will be talking on the same problem with respect to their department. So, okay, if we do something, how, or if this problem persists, if it continues, how the impact will be there on their particular department? How will it impact their department? Okay, then a particular solution is being given by one of the departments. So the other department will think if this is implemented, what changes or how it affects their department. Again, they'll put forth one. So at the end, okay, this is what is called as brainstorming. So all the ideas are put together. So some additions, deletions, okay, some variations, some inclusions of 2 to 3 ideas, or combining 2 to 3 ideas. Everything will be done, and a particular solution is given out. This can happen in one day. This can happen in over a period of 6 months, or even it may take multiple years also. So a particular cross-functional team comes where each and every person of the department, different departments, are aware of what is going to happen. It is being discussed. Then necessary actions will be taken from the different departments. So what has to be taken? So this is, we need to integrate the demand planning and forecasting throughout the supply chain. Then coming to understand and identify customer segments. So what we are doing here? So we so what is segmentation? Okay, in the last part of the previous chapter we saw what is segmentation. Okay, so how a particular market is segmented on different terms. So it is not that a company is only catering one target segment. It could be multiple segments that it could be catering. Like I gave you only sports people, or the people are who are very much enthusiasts of particular sports only will be eating chips because it is marketed like that. Now suddenly the advertisement changed, and the people who are basically trying to have a meeting, okay, or the participants of the meeting are also will be eating. Now these are whole new segments. Okay, these two are different segments. So suddenly these particular segments are there. So it's not that only one segment is targeted. It could be multiple segments in the market which could be targeted. So something like that. First, the firm must identify the customer segments the supply chain serves. So which all segments are there? Like for example, uh, customers may be grouped by similarities. So what kind of similarities we are talking? In terms of games, it is like people who are loving that particular game, or people who are watching that game. So this is a particular group. Next, office going people, work from home people. This is a new group. Okay. So again, there could be groups based on age. There are old age people who may not be eating chips. Okay, because of different health reasons, cholesterol and other stuff. But there might be some youngsters who are very much interested in eating chips at this particular time of meeting. Right, then grouped based on similarities in service requirements. Okay, then demand volumes, order frequency, demand volatility. Like order frequency, I can give you an example. Like there could be few people who are ordering for certain product every 15 days. So this is one group. So the people who are ordering in just a week, that is one more group. So people who are ordering after 15 days, more than 15 days, that might be one group. So it could be like 15 days to 30 days could be one group. Then from 30 and above, you could make one more group. So this is what is depending on order frequency. So order volumes, there could be people who are ordering 5 products, okay, at a time. There are people who could only buy one. There are people who could buy 10 products at a time. There are people who could buy 15 products. So this is one more group again based on the demand volume. Then demand volatility. Okay, so suddenly some group of people buy that particular product, and they will not buy for next few days. So this is again product depending upon the demand volatility. Then seasonality. So if a particular season is there, your product will be bought on a larger scale, and if there is one more season, it will not be. Like exactly season, if you see, okay, I could give you some raincoats or umbrellas when there is a lot of rains. Okay, umbrellas and raincoats will be sold on a higher capacity. But if it is winter or if it is sunny, okay, in winter you will not even use umbrella or a raincoat. But in summer, there is a chance of you using an umbrella because the heat is more and you don't want to be in the heat and you want a shade. So basically, you are using the umbrella even at the time of summer. Okay, but very few people do it. Okay, but still there is a small market that is available even in summer. But in winter, nothing. Everyone is very cold. They don't want to wear raincoats. Okay, because there is no rain. They don't want to use umbrellas because there is no much of sun in winter. It is very cold, right? So based on the seasonality and depending upon your product, everything has to be taken care. Then a clear understanding of the customer segments facilitates an accurate and simplified approach to forecasting. So we just spoke about different segments. So what kind of segment basically I'm catering to? Okay, which segment has more demand of my product? Okay, like take example of toothpaste. Okay, there are many people who use toothpaste. There are many people who use tooth powder. So earlier it was tooth powder was in huge demand. Now slowly it is being coming down. Now most of us are using the toothpaste. Okay, and not the tooth powder. There might be many people in few students only, like who are having their relatives or someone in village areas. So if you go and see there, many people they use tooth powder. They take some tooth powder, and the most famous one was the Colgate tooth powder. White color used to come. They'll put it on their hand. They'll go and stand outside and start brushing their teeth with their fingers, or they'll take a neem stick, a small neem stick. They'll make it like a brush. They'll bite it small parts. It becomes many segments. They put it or they dip it into that particular powder and they start using it like a toothbrush. Okay, but here we are having a bristled toothbrush. We are having toothpaste. We put it on it and we start brushing our teeth. Okay, so this is what is the variation now. So both are basically cleaning their teeth, but the products are different. Okay, so we need to check what segment I am basically targeting. Okay, and we need to again focus on what needs are there in that particular segment. Then we need to come up with our plan. So that is what is understanding and identifying the customer segments. Okay, then moving to the next point, that is identifying the major factors. Uh, okay, identifying the major factors. So to go back, identifying the major factors is the fourth point. So first 3 points we have finished. Okay, so if you see it's almost time. Okay, so if you see, we'll continue with the fourth point here for effective forecasting in the next class. So we'll stop here for today. Okay, then we'll continue with the fourth point. So I have completed first 3 points. What are they? Understanding the objective of forecasting, integrating demand planning and forecasting throughout the supply chain, then understanding and identifying customer segments. Okay, so this is under effective forecasting 3 points. So fourth, fifth, and sixth in the next class. And again, what all we saw what is supply chain coordination, or if lack of supply chain coordination, what happens. Then what is a bullwhip effect, and different examples on bullwhip effect, how it has the impact on each and every segment of a particular supply chain, from consumer to the supplier. Then, okay, what is bullwhip effect? Examples of Procter and Gamble, Pampers, then HP, the printer division. Then we started with effective forecasting, and we have completed 3 points in this, and from fourth, fifth, and sixth in the next class. Again, I'll repeat. Your portion for second IA is modules 2 and 3. Prepare well. Okay, so we'll stop for today. Okay, students, take care. We'll meet in the next class.